The vast savanna that stretched as far as the eye could see was unusually quiet that morning. The wind barely blew, not even a breeze could be heard blowing through the tall grass. There was not a cloud in the sky as the sun scorched the land. Lurking behind this calm was something, danger. A lone elephant calf stood alone in the sun. His little trunk trembled far from the safe arms of his mother. Its tiny trunk probed the ground, searching for traces of its mother, but with each step it got more and more lost. No one would have expected the savanna to be so quiet that morning. No one could have known what would happen to that lonely calf. What do you think would happen if a baby elephant was left alone in the savanna? Can it survive? Write in the comments and let's discuss this story together. The calf had been looking for its mother for days. It wandered along the shore of the pond where she drank water. Sometimes it lifted its nose in the air and roared desperately, but no one answered. After a while, its steps slowed, the ground was hard and the sun shone mercilessly right over its head. His eyes grew heavy and his legs began to tremble. He was alone and defenseless in the middle of the savanna. Every time he found a sip of water, he raised his hose to the sky and roared as if searching for his mother in the distance. But there was no answer, no sign. She walked on the dust-covered earth, her tiny paws trembling. Every time she stepped on the ground, the crunching echoed beneath her, as if it were the last breath of dried grass, and then, a pungent odor carried by the wind. The smell of blood. The cub's little eyes widened. Its tiny ears vibrated slightly. Rustling could be heard coming from the bushes. At first only a shadow appeared. Then a pair of eyes, then another, and another. It was as if the bushes had come alive. Golden eyes glided softly through the grass. They moved slowly, like silent shadows watching their prey's every move. Lions, a pride of lions surrounded him like silent shadows. He took a few steps backwards, holding his breath. He raised his trunk in the air, hoping his mother would hear him, but all he heard was the faint rustling of lions in the bushes. Her eyes filled with tears. She instinctively wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't budge. With each step they came closer, golden eyes fixed, smelling their prey. A lioness sank to the ground, her muscles tensed. She put her weight on her hind legs and waited to lunge forward. She held her breath, just a few steps, and it would be over, but they were in no hurry. The lions were patient. Their eyes were fixed on the cub, trembling with fear. The others slowly formed a circle. Just as she was looking for a place to escape, she realized that the circle was closing. His heart was beating so fast that it almost jumped out of his chest. He swung his little hose, kicked the earth, but nothing changed. It was closed, it was the end. At that very moment, the soil began to vibrate. At first it was a small vibration, as if the wind had blown the dust away. Then again, and again. The earth shook slightly, the bushes shed their leaves, the birds suddenly took off. The lions paused for a moment, pricked up their ears. The greedy look in their eyes had given way to surprise. They turned their eyes to the horizon and felt something approaching. Clouds of dust began to rise over the horizon. Each strike on the ground made the stones tremble beneath the earth. What was approaching? A herd? A storm? But the wind was not blowing, the air was silent. Only the earth trembled with the footsteps of a great being, and then, it appeared. On the horizon line, through the dust clouds, a gigantic silhouette appeared. His steps were slow but determined. With each step, the earth shook and the dust swirled around him, mixing with the dry air of the savanna. A large male elephant, covered in deep scars, with frayed ears, but standing tall, the legendary ghost of the savanna. The elephant that no one had seen for years, that only the old rangers spoke of in their stories. As the clouds of dust turned golden in the sunlight, the great male elephant slowly tightened his stride. The earth flowed like a river beneath him. The lions looked at each other and began to retreat. When the male elephant stepped in front of them, they didn't know what to do. Their tusks gritted, their tails wagged slightly, but they did not advance. The male elephant walked up to the cub. The cub was petrified with fear. Its eyes were wide open, shadowed by the huge trunk, the big elephant gently placed his trunk on the calf's back. Gently but firmly. That touch was a message to the lions. This is it, and one by one, the lions retreated. Their eyes were still greedy, but they understood what they were up against. On the savannah, there were rules. Power always won. But today, they had chosen the wrong day to hunt. Silently, one by one, they moved away, blending into the grass. The baby elephant leaned against the huge trunk of the male elephant. His little trunk met the big one. That moment was felt all over the savannah. It was nature's purest instinct of protection. Loneliness was no longer the destiny of that little elephant. And perhaps that day, in the heart of the savannah, the legend had returned. The earth was still vibrating. The phantom of the savannah stood like a wall in front of the little elephant with its gigantic trunk. The cub's eyes, wide with fear, relaxed a little as he looked up at her huge trunk. She gently lowered her trunk to the ground, as if to say, "Don't be afraid anymore, you are safe." The baby elephant let out a huge sigh. He stretched his tiny trunk towards the big elephant's legs, touching them lightly as if he wanted to feel the reassurance he was looking for, but the lions had not gone. They had retreated, yes, but they had not disappeared. Their golden eyes were still watching through the grass. They looked at each other with frustration and anger. Their prey had crashed into a wall of cover right in front of them. But hunger knew no patience. Behind the huge male elephant was a defenseless calf, and the laws of nature dictated survival of the fittest. The male elephant raised his head slightly. His ears spread wide, his trunk circled in the air. He could smell it, the smell of the enemy. They were not alone. Those eyes were still there. Squinting, he looked deep into the savannah. The echoing growls of the lions filled his nostrils, sharp as the smell of fresh blood carried by the wind. At that moment, the dust clouds rose slightly. The lions were regrouping. This time they were more cautious, more careful. 3 lionesses glided almost invisibly through the grass. The male elephant pulled the small cub behind him with his huge trunk. His steps were heavy, but determined. The baby elephant followed his steps. It was as if she had disappeared behind his huge trunk. Together, they walked slowly along the dusty savannah path, but the predators were not giving up. A lioness slowly pushed her way through the grass. She was watching for a gap behind the huge male elephant. A small mistake, a small opening. Another lioness went around the other side. They moved in coordination, stealthy, patient and determined. With each step, they got closer and closer, quieter and quieter, but at that moment, the male elephant suddenly stopped. The calf staggered, bumping into his legs. The big elephant raised his trunk, pricked up his large ears and began to listen. He faced directly in the direction of the lions. His trunk gently circled in the air. He had smelled the scent. He sensed the danger. Suddenly, unexpectedly, it lowered its trunk to the ground and struck the earth with its huge body so hard that clouds of dust billowed up. Dust particles rose into the sky and surrounded them like a light mist. The lions hesitated for a moment, their golden eyes shining through the dust. This was a move they had not expected. They were facing not just an elephant, but a protective giant. Known as the ghost of the savannah, this giant never backed down. Just as the legends say, the baby elephant snuggled close between the big elephant's legs. It was reassuring to hide behind that huge trunk. The male elephant turned his head left and right. He listened to the soil, smelled the scents carried by the wind. When the lion's footsteps joined the rustling of the grass, he flicked his ears. Something was going to happen, and soon that moment, 2 lions leapt out of the grass. Eyes flashing, tusks slightly bared, they were counting the seconds to pounce on their prey. But the male elephant retreated with unexpected agility. He pushed the calf into a sheltered spot behind him and raised his huge trunk into the air. His eyes squinted and his ears widened. The huge proboscis swung through the air like a whip. The first lioness backed away, not realizing what had happened. The second one staggered slightly but did not retreat. Two more pairs of eyes appeared from the shadows. This time there were more of them. Together, they were stronger. The phantom of the savannah never stepped back. He planted his big legs firmly on the ground and swung his trunk. His eyes fixed on the hunters, shining golden yellow. And at that moment, dark clouds gathered in the sky. Lightning flashed faintly in the distance. The wind picked up, clouds of dust spread like a fog over the savannah. The male elephant seemed to merge with nature itself. With every step the earth trembled, with every movement the other animals of the savannah raised their heads and looked at him. The lions took a few more steps back. Their eyes were still on their prey, but this huge protector between them was holding them back. The male elephant's eyes were shining. As if the old legends were true. The ghost of the savannah had returned to restore nature's justice. The baby elephant cowered closer to the huge trunk. In that moment, fear gave way to a little bit of hope. Perhaps for the first time, he was not alone on the savannah. As she watched the lions silently retreat, she poked her head out from between the massive male elephant's huge legs. And at that moment, the first drop of rain fell from the sky. As if nature was blessing this great encounter. As the earth evaporated slightly with the coolness of the rain, the sky finally began to clear. The male elephant stood tall next to the calf. The lions had retreated deeper into the savannah, silent. The little elephant stood safely in the shadow of its huge protector. The fear in his eyes had given way to admiration. Everything seemed to have calmed down. But the balance of nature is always in flux. Just then, a sound echoed in the distance. A loud, echoing bugle call. It was so strong that the earth trembled slightly. The male elephant quickly turned his head in the direction of the sound. He pricked up his ears and squinted his eyes. On the horizon of the savannah, a thin cloud of dust was rising. When the baby elephant looked up, his eyes opened wide. A shadow emerged from the dust cloud, then another, and another. Dozens, maybe hundreds of elephants were marching in a wide line towards the center of the savannah. At the forefront was a matriarch with huge tusks and ears open like a battle flag. His steps were heavy but determined. Behind her, followed by the young, mothers and offspring. It was as if the earth was shaking. The force of nature was flowing into the heart of the savannah. The baby elephant held its breath. Her eyes were fixed on the matriarch. He paused for a moment, then gathered all his courage and stepped out from behind the male elephant. With small steps he began to move towards the herd. With each step he grew faster, hope shining in his eyes. And then, the matriarch stopped. She lowered her huge head and looked at the little elephant with her huge eyes. A silence fell over the savannah. Even the wind stopped blowing. The baby elephant took a few more steps and stretched its huge trunk in front of the matriarch. At that moment, the huge female elephant slowly lowered her trunk and gently touched the calf. That touch was like the fulfillment of years of longing. It was as if she had found a long-lost part of herself. Matriarch took the little elephant under her own body, wrapping her trunk around it with a protective instinct. The ghost of the savannah stood like a shadow in the background. Her eyes followed the cub as it joined the herd. And at that moment, the matriarch raised her eyes and looked at him. There was a long silence. Then he did something unexpected. The matriarch lowered her head slightly and touched her proboscis to the ground. This was an ancient ritual that signified acceptance among the herd. The male elephant paused for a moment, then moved slowly towards the herd. The baby elephant was now where it belonged. So was the ghost of the savannah. The huge male elephant, who had wandered alone for years, only mentioned in legends, was back with his old herd. Perhaps the legends were true. Nature would one day bring back what it had lost. The savannah was silent for a while longer. The sounds of migrating animals could be heard in the distance. Nature had restored its balance. And the herd disappeared in the clouds of dust and disappeared in the golden light. Do you think nature can really bring back what it has lost? Write in the comments and let's discuss this extraordinary meeting.